Today I'm going to explain about HIRARC. So what is HIRARC? HIRARC stands for Hazard Identification, Risk Assessment, Risk Control. So hazard identification is an ability to recognize an item or material which are potential threat that may cause injury or harm to people. While risk assessment is the ability to analyze the possibility of a person getting harmed or injured when exposed to the hazard and evaluate how low or high the damage would be. Risk control is a measure or action taken to eliminate the risk or minimize the risk of the person exposed to the hazard. So what's the objective of HIRARC? So HIRARC implementation is to identify all factors that may risk workers toward an accident, consider the possibility of hazard that may occur under any circumstances, and condition and enable workers to plan, introduce and monitor preventive measures against the risk of occupational injuries. So next is the fourth step to make HIRARC in a correct sequence. So the first is to classify the work activities. Second is to identify the hazard. Third is conduct a risk analysis. Fourth is to recommend the control measures. Next, here is an example of a HIRARC form. So a HIRARC form consists of three main segments. The first segment is the hazard identifications, where we determine what type of the work has been done, and then what's the hazard that it can give, and what's the cause or effect that it can harm us. And the second segment is the risk assessment. So based on risk assessment, we will use a rating from 1 to 5 to determine the likeliness of it to occur and the severity of it. Then to get the risk, we multiply both likeliness and severity, and based on the table D, we can get the value and categorize the risk. Either it's low, high or medium. So the third is the risk control. So risk control is just to recommend a control measures. So we will recommend a solutions to minimize the risk or to prevent it, and it must be done by a person in charge with a due date and the status of the progress of the recommended control measures.
Now, let us look at an example of hazard identification and risk assessment. The video shown here is a construction site in India. As you can see, the workers are not wearing any protective equipment and not securing themselves during working at high places. Obviously, the hazard identified in this construction site is working at height without any protection. According to New Delhi television, several fatal cases and injuries has been reported in the same construction site in short term. Thus, the likelihood rating for this event is 5, which categorized as most likely to happen and result in fatalities. Next, the severity of this hazard is absolutely severe, as it could cause death and permanent disability, so it is rated as 5 higher degrees of seriousness. Based on this table, the related risk calculated for this hazard is 25 and was given the highest priority. Immediate action must be taken to control the hazard to minimize the risk of causing death and injuries to the workers. In order to contain the risk, a complete set of protective equipment must be provided to the workers as shown in the picture here. Protective equipment such as safety helmet, vest, falling protection kit is essential to protect the workers when working at height. Last but not least, the workers must secure themselves at a solid platform when working at height to prevent falling due to tripping or slipping.